This is Mackenzie Shirilla. She is a 17-year-old who was found guilty of murder for causing a car crash that killed her boyfriend and his friend. Mackenzie decided death was the ultimate goal that day. This was not reckless driving. This was murder. Shirilla's boyfriend, Dominic Russo, and his friend, Davin Flanagan, were in the car when she crashed into the side of a commercial building outside of Cleveland, going 100 miles per hour. Both men were pronounced dead at the scene, and Shirilla survived. Prosecutors argued that the teen had a toxic relationship, and Shirilla had made violent threats against her boyfriend. She threatened his property, threatened to break into his house. Reportedly, she crashed her car on purpose because she wanted to kill her boyfriend, and his friend was just collateral damage. The prosecutor said the intent was obvious upon seeing that video, that there was only one goal. You see her driving very calmly and making the right turn, and then all evidence indicates she immediately put the pedal to the metal and drove straight into a building at 100 miles per hour. I think those really demonstrated to us that this was no accident. A few days before the crash, she allegedly took the same route to plot the crime. This is where the judge now finds her guilty. Count 1 finds the defendant Mackenzie Shirilla guilty of murder to Dominic Russo. Count 2 finds Mackenzie Shirilla guilty of murder to Davin Flanagan. She now stands up to be placed in handcuffs as she continues to tear up. Shirilla now has a moment to speak before her sentencing.
I'm so deeply sorry. I hope one day you can see I would never let this happen or do it on purpose. I wish I could remember what happened. I'm just so sorry. I'm heartbroken. I love Down and Damien.
There was no medical condition that caused this as an accident. There was no mechanical failure of the car. A failed suicide attempt is not a defense to murder.
There's a very good likelihood, Mackenzie, that you will spend the rest of your life in prison.
She's sentenced on Count 1, 15 years to life. Count 2, 15 years to life, to be served concurrently. The judge just sentenced her to 15 years to life in prison. This is Shondell Jackson. He's in the Milwaukee County Courthouse at his sentencing for being convicted of murdering a university student. Reportedly, 18-year-old Jackson and his friend were hunting for victims when they saw Nathan Potter leave a bar. Nathan Potter, the 21-year-old victim, was a college student at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. They stalked him, accosted him, and demanded money. When Jackson learned that Potter didn't have any cash, Jackson shot him, which killed him. Officials said Jackson fled to Mississippi the day after Potter's murder. Jackson's uncle reportedly tipped off the police on his whereabouts, where he was arrested. When he was on trial, you can see Jackson make gestures towards the victim's family, and when he was escorted out of the courtroom, you can see him smiling at the family. Moments before the sentencing, Jackson's mother told the court she first heard about the killing on TV.
When I saw it on the news, I even cried. I'm like, oh my God, I can't imagine what that mother is going through. I never had a clue that my child had anything to do with it. My son is not a monster. He is not a monster.
Jackson now apologizes for what he has done.
I apologize for my behaviors. Please don't take my life from me.
When the judge announced life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, Jackson had an outburst. As the deputies restrained Jackson, you can hear one of Jackson's family members scream to the victim's family. Jackson is serving life in prison without parole. His friend pleaded guilty to acting as the lookout and was sentenced to 12 years in prison. This is Willard Miller, and Jeremy Goodale, at just 16 years old, along with his friend, was charged for the murder of their high school Spanish teacher. Reportedly, the motive was over a bad grade. Miller and Goodale attended Fairfield High School in southeastern Iowa, where Nohema Graber was their Spanish teacher. After Miller received a bad grade from Graber, he and Goodale planned her murder. The boys stalked Graber as she went for her usual walk at Chautauqua City Park, waiting to ambush her. Miller said, "I should make sure she's dead," hitting her a couple more times. They then dragged her into the woods and beat her to death with a baseball bat. Afterward, they tried to hide her body. Shortly after, both boys were arrested. Court documents alleged that a witness who knew Goodale showed law enforcement Snapchat messages indicating the boys' involvement in the murder. One of the Snapchat messages read, "Point of view, you're my Spanish teacher, and this is the last thing you see," followed by "Time to hide a body." Goodale later pleaded guilty and testified against Miller, admitting to their plan to kill Graber. When asked for his plea to first-degree murder, Goodale said, "Guilty." Before his sentencing, Goodale spoke.
and I'm sorry, truly sorry. What I've taken can never be replaced. Every day I wish I could go back and stop myself. I can't comprehend losing a loved one in such an awful way.
The judge sentenced Goodale to life with the possibility of parole after 25 years.
Accept responsibility for the role that I've played in the murder of a human braver. I'm sincerely sorry for the distress that I've caused you, and I ask that I'm given a chance, and I don't want to be institutionalized. I don't want to be in so long that I forget about what mattered, where I come from, and what I need to do.
The judge sentenced Miller to life with the possibility of parole after 35 years. Miller seemed completely unfazed by the sentence.